The idea is, what about the future and in terms of access? And my point of departure for this discussion is something that's come up several times in these 3 days already. Some people are making statements that are rather black and white. This was the past and the future is change. And I am a believer that we do have situations in music, including electroacoustic music, where we have a thesis, which is something that exists. Then you get a group of people making antithesis. So maybe if you want the obvious one is tonality and atonality. But that doesn't mean the end of the world. Then we have something called synthesis, where maybe somebody says, I don't only want tonality. So you have Catholic and then you have the Protestant, but then you get some mishmash later. And maybe this is a way of moving forward. So we want to be innovative, but we don't want to completely write off the past. So I think that there is synthesis after thesis and antithesis. And one of the ways of making things accessible in the future, as Flo talked about in his paper, is acknowledging some strengths of the past that we do not have to get rid of. So here are some thoughts. First of all, I've heard the word composer a lot. Now, Daniel Torrugi excused himself because I think he's in the Ministry of Culture, may come back later, at the moment. But, I mean, there was a big circle in his talk about the word composer. And to me, I think the future, it's not going to be a big circle around the composer. It's going to be a big circle around somebody creatively involved in organizing sound. Whether it is in terms of the creation of, the co-creation of, the performance of, or being in an interactive situation, that's all the same in the future. So you can be an active creator, but you can also be an active interpreter, and maybe these two are at the same time. So that's one thing I think is quite important. Another thing that I think is changing now very much, and anyone involved with the public art and the sound installations and the like, we know that there's a new open space where maybe the audience is not passive, but the audience is actually actively involved in a piece. So we don't have people receiving and people giving, but it's everybody's involved. So there's not a them and an us. There's an involvement. And I think that access comes through being drawn into involvement. Then, of course, there's this word that I use perhaps too much, but the idea that communities are forming, whether they're in the room today. We have a new community that has grown through the initiatives of Ricardo and Raul in this building over 3 days. That's a new community, and there's a lot of warmth, great communication. But other communities are virtual, using the internet or whatever, that are sharing things. And in this way, new forms of music will evolve through the communities. Then, this is very personal because I'm the one that came up with this sound-based music, but I speak of a paradigm of sound-based music, and one of the consequences of the paradigm of sound-based music is to go above the art music and pop music division, because I think that there's a lot of crosstalk here. Just like Robert Normandot stated this morning, and I kind of started a conversation with him, that there was Parme, Normandot, entre autres, and then you had Aphex Twin and Ikeda. I don't think it's them and them. I think it's us. So the sound-based paradigm, it brings us together, and we have to celebrate the strength and try to integrate interest, aesthetic ideas, and ways of being innovative and moving forward. So that's an opportunity. Performance. How do we perform music? I'm not going to elaborate on this because you've all said it already over the last 3 days. Performance is being redefined, whether it's online or it's in network situations, or just how music is made, how music is heard, where it is heard, in what manner. There's a lot to be discussed, so I'm throwing that one in the air, for example. And as a consequence of these 4 or 5 thoughts, I thought I would start, but not finish, because that's up to you, and A to Z. So, my first one is much greater access to electroacoustic music expected in the future. My second one, electroacoustic music for babies and children of all ages, because we tend to make things for our age group. And quite frankly, I know that my 12-year-old could like a lot of that stuff. And if I tried a little bit, I could make something that she would like, but you would too, at a different level, just like an animated film, yeah? Then we have computer folk music. I'm sorry, Yuran, I haven't changed my mind. I've gone 8 whole years, I keep that one. And then a design of physical and virtual sound installations for various communities. Those are things I expect in the future that will make electroacoustic more accessible. And I could have done another 22, but that would be me giving a talk, and this is about a round table. So, I'll shut up now, and I would like to ask Raul to follow me, if you don't mind, with your statement, and I'll prepare your thing at the same time.
I have just some ideas to share with you. I also agree with Robert Normando that I have more questions than certainties about the future, and even about the past. I have also a lot of questions about the memory. But I would like to share with you some ideas about some things that happen here in, I wouldn't say Latin America, just in Argentina, but I think more or less are the same in many Latin American countries. Something about our ideas of the past and of the future too. Of course, it depends of the moment of the where you have those ideas of the past and the future. There's a kind of an old saying that says that if we don't remember what has happened, we are going to repeat it in the future. It's a strange thing, but once you start to think a little bit about it, you can say many things about it. But it may mean that, okay, just a warning to not repeat those bad things in the past, for instance, and it means also that really bad things have happened in the past. And what happened in the past that has a continuation in the present, which is that condition in some way our memory. We also have an expression very common here in Argentina is hacer memoria. Just, make memory. Just when you don't remember something, you have to make memory. And it's a very nice expression because it's something that the memory is not something given. You have to make it. You have to work. It's a job. It's something like a task to be done. But how can it be done? It's not simple that, but we know how it can be destroyed. We have learned some things about how the memory can be destroyed. In the last century, we have in Argentina about 30 presidents, and a third of them were military, who take the government by coup d'etat. And there's an old joke who says that when the military took the government, they start to distribute the ministries. Also, the captain goes to the Ministry of Economy, the general goes to the Ministry of Justice, and the private goes to the Ministry of Culture. So that's a kind of a joke, very nice, but it reflects a situation of the importance the military that we had in our governments gave to the culture. Of course, it's a joke, but it reflects something, and they dedicated many of the time to destroy, especially education, especially public education, which was a kind of proud we had in Argentina some times ago. And of course, it affects not only education but culture too, because, for example, it's very difficult for us to get CDs or recording of our composer from the beginning of the century, our performance for other times ago. And so it's very difficult to preserve that memory. And also I was thinking how the past think the future. It's a very strange situation that we had in Argentina, especially for example, in the 19th century, has some kind of vision that that I think it persists in some way in these days, which was to look especially to developed countries and take them as a model of future. No, I mean, it's a strange thing that is today, the present of Europe will be our future. No? So we have to follow Europe and as much as possible try to be like them. So that is our goal, our idea. Of course, I am not agree with the idea of being an isolated country and not to look to the others. But one thing is not to look to the others, and another thing is follow the others. And this kind of thing has been especially increasing with the technological development. So that is, it also has the idea of a progress that has to be followed in some way. So just to conclude this first idea is we have from Latin America, from Argentina less, a very confused idea of what was our past, a very confused idea in the past about our future too. So our present is too a little chaotic, of course, because of those ideas too. But especially about what is referring to electroacoustic music, but not basically on electroacoustic music, just to talk about new technologies and internet and all that. One of at least my wishes or my idea is that this kind of new technologies would help people in some way, at least not to emigrate and to try to develop new ways of communicating, new ways of sell, or try to break in some way the globalization that is only to sell and not to buy. I mean, try to buy and sell in both ways too. So the people who are immigrating is very. We have talked about that in other sessions too. As far as I remember, that more composers are going abroad and coming now. But I think that it's a situation that's only for a few people, not for everybody. So if new technologies can help in a way not to emigrate and to generate only a virtual community to share knowledge and make a kind of job at distance, I think that it would be a change, a slight change, not in the real, but at least in the virtual state.
Thank you, Raul.